Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. Today's video is all about the Polyvagal Theory. My name is Brittany Krippner, owner and founder of Safe Haven Counseling and Wellness, and today I am going to give you a simple explanation of what the Polyvagal Theory is and why it's so important to understand for our everyday functioning. So let's jump in. All right, let's break this down. So what is the Polyvagal Theory? Why do we need to understand it? Again, thanks for stopping by, and make sure to like and subscribe to my channel so you can be notified about any new content that I create. So polyvagal, poly means many, and vagal comes from the word for our vagus nerve. So our vagus nerve is a cranial nerve. Starts in our brain, travels all throughout our spine, and it intertwines through all of our organs. And it really makes that concrete and visual connection between our mind and our body. And so our vagus nerve is the primary carrier of information. It describes the state of our body to our brain. And then the brain transmits that information back to the body. It's a feedback mechanism, which is kind of responsible for maintaining homeostasis, so that normal level of calm, connected, this is where we really want to be to feel safe, to feel protected, to feel like we can function on a healthy, normal, regular basis. It's so vital for our organs and for our brain body functions to be in a state of homeostasis. And so research over the past few decades shows that our vagus nerve plays a really key role in managing our level of stress, as well as managing our level of our body's inflammation. And so in the modern day age that we live in, of stress is everywhere, and inflammation-related diseases are all over the place, popping up. New things are coming in all of the time. It's perhaps the most important nerve, our vagus nerve, to help us understand stress and inflammation, and we really need to start paying attention to it. Here is a picture of the vagus nerve. And you can see that it really starts right there in the bottom part of our brain, our downstairs brain, which is where our reptilian function is. So our autonomic, right? Breathing, heart rate, blood flow, all the things that we don't need to think about. This is where it starts. Emotions also live here. And as you can see, it goes all the way down through all of our organs, right? Now, let's talk about what is the polyvagal theory. Now, our autonomic nervous system is the heart of our lived experiences. It influences the way that we live, the way that we love, the way that we work, and it guides how we move through the world. It's that the binoculars or the glasses that we're looking through as how we view the world, experience other people. Now, the nervous system is the common denominator in our human family that's designed to help us successfully navigate the challenges of daily living and ensuring that we survive in moments of danger and we thrive in times of safety. So the polyvagal theory was actually developed by scientist Stephen Porges, and he offered a guide to the complex inner workings of our autonomic nervous system. And he really helped us find a way to partner with our nervous system to navigate unfamiliar territory. And according to the polyvagal theory, there are three organizing principles. We have our neuroception, we have our hierarchy, and then we have co-regulation. And co-regulation is in another video that I have posted that's explained. I'll make sure to attach that at the end of this video today. But that kind of forms the foundation and understanding of how our nervous system works. And so as you can kind of see in this Venn diagram, we have our hierarchy listed. We have a ventral, we have sympathetic, and we have dorsal. And we'll get into the hierarchy, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a moment. But I want to talk about our first principle of neuroception. And so neuroception is the stories about who we are and how the world works. It originates in our autonomic state. So we are where we are at, ventral, sympathetic, and dorsal. And then those signals are sent through our autonomic pathways from the body to the brain, and then translated by the brain into the belief that guides our daily living. So 80% of our energy comes from our body, our vagus nerve, ventral, sympathetic, or dorsal experience. That information is sent up to the brain, and the 20% left is the story that your mind is making up or re-experiencing or pulling from learned experiences in our lives, and it's then making these connections. And so the mind narrates what the nervous system knows. The story follows our state. So before the brain understands and makes meaning of an experience, the autonomic nervous system has already assessed the situation through our sensory experiences, touch, taste, sight, smell, and hearing, and it's already initiated the response. So Stephen Porges, who coined the term neuroception, it describes how our autonomic nervous system takes in information. And it's kind of like this inner subconscious surveillance system, if you will. It gathers information through three pathways: listening inside to what's happening in our internal organs, outside scanning our environment, and then between sensing the connection to another nervous system, and that's the co-regulation piece. So through neuroception, we are continuously broadcasting and receiving messages of welcome and warning. And then in response to the information we receive via neuroception, the autonomic nervous system makes moment-to-moment decisions about safety and survival. And we move from state to state along the autonomic hierarchy. So let's move into talking about hierarchy. So hierarchy is the autonomic nervous system's, how it responds to sensations within the body and signals from our environment through our three pathways that I had kind of showed in the diagram and mentioned before. And so these pathways work in a specified order and respond to challenges in predictable ways called our autonomic hierarchy. And each pathway brings its own sets of thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and bodily experiences. And so the three pathways in evolutionary order from oldest to newest is the dorsal vagus of immobilization, the sympathetic nervous system, mobilization, and the ventral vagus, the social engagement and connective system. So if we talk about them from oldest to newest, at the bottom of our hierarchy, this is the oldest system. Okay, this system was discovered 500 million years ago. It's crazy, right? Like, it hasn't evolved to our modern day craziness. And so the dorsal vagal system in its everyday role regulates our digestion. It brings nutrients to nourish us. But when recruited in a service of survival, dorsal is a shutdown system. It's that ultimate protection of conservation to save us. Our bodies protect us to save us from ourselves and the stress that our bodies are creating and taking in. And so in this dorsal vagal shutdown state, we often feel drained. We don't have enough energy to engage with the world. We collapse, we disconnect, we want to disappear, right? Sounds a lot like the symptoms of depression, no? So our ventral vagal system, ventral means front, and so that is the branch of our vagus nerve that's towards the front of our body, and dorsal vagal is the branch that's towards the rear part of our body. So this part of our nervous system, like I mentioned, evolved 500 million years ago, and the ventral branch is only about 200 million years old. So think about that for a moment. Our dorsal vagal part is older and our more primal part. Here at the bottom of our hierarchy, people experience feeling alone, despair. They want to escape into not knowing, not feeling, a sense of not being. Maybe described as being hopeless, abandoned, foggy, too tired to think or act. And the world may be seen as empty and dead and dark. And so from this earliest place on our evolutionary timeline, where mind and body have moved into conservation mode, you might believe, I'm lost, no one will ever find me. So some of our daily living problems can be dissociation, problems with memory, depression, isolation, no energy to take on tasks of daily living. And the physical health consequences in this state include chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, digestive issues, low blood pressure, and respiratory problems. So the mind and the body really are in sync with each other. And we need to be so mindful of that at all times. So let's talk about the next state, sympathetic. Our sympathetic nervous system is our system of mobilization. So in its everyday function, it helps regulate heartbeat, breathing rhythms. It brings us energy to move through the day, dancing, playing sports, working out, cleaning the house, listening to music. All of that is this mobilized, positive, healthy, non-survival state. But in the survival state, when that gets activated, this moves us down into that fight or flight, right? And it pulls us into anxiety and it pulls us into anger. We go into action. And fight or flight, as we've probably heard this term, right? Our heart rate speeds up. Our breathing becomes shorter and shallower. We are scanning our environment, looking for danger, and we're on the move. I might describe myself as anxious or rash in this state, feeling this rush of adrenaline, and it makes it really hard for me to sit still. You might tune in to listening for sounds of danger, and you don't hear friendly voices. And so that's oftentimes connected with the low frequency sounds. So if you think about this system being 400 million years old, the growl of a predator, right? Low frequency sounds equal danger, equal fight or flight, equal mobilization to protect and to stay alive. And so from this place of sympathetic mobilization, right, you might believe the world is a dangerous place. You might believe you need to protect yourself from harm. Some of our daily living problems can be anxiety, panic attacks, anger, inability to focus or follow through. You might have distress in relationships. And then the health consequences, can include heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, sleep problems, weight gain, memory impairment, headache, chronic neck and shoulder and back tension. Why is that? So our sympathetic nervous system is actually a spinal system, and it starts in our thoracic spine, which is just below the cervical spine, our neck, and it goes all the way down through our thoracic and our lumbar. And so with the sympathetic being a spinal system, you activate fight or flight. That's connected to all of our muscles, all of our back muscles. And we hold so much tension. We're walking around in our ears, are kissing our shoulders, and no matter how many massages we get, or foam rolls, or rubs, or creams, or magnesium, or ibuprofen, or name your poison, the tension never goes away. So we have to understand sympathetic nervous system. We have to understand how can we speak the language of our bodies, of this system that evolved 400 million years ago, right? We need to understand this. And we need to understand how we can work through the stressors to release tension, to move through these health issues, chronic pain, right? So our sympathetic nervous system really is an important piece to understanding a lot of health concerns. Okay, the last earliest state. So 200 million years ago, I mentioned the ventral vagal system, that social connection system came into existence. And so the ventral state is essential for health and well-being. So this is that homeostatic state. So in this state, we feel grounded, we feel organized, we're ready to meet the day, life feels manageable, we see options, we have hope, we can hear new stories, we can connect to ourselves, and we can connect to others. We can also connect to the world around us and to spirit. We feel ready to engage with the world, we feel regulated, our heart rate's regulated, our breath is full, we take in the faces of friends, we tune into conversations, we tune out to distracting noises, we're able to see the big picture, we're able to connect with the world, and we're able to connect with the people in it. And so in this state, I might describe myself as happy, active, interested. The world might seem safe and fun and peaceful. And from the ventral vagal place, I'm connected to myself. I can reach out to others. Now, some of the daily living experiences in this state include being organized, following through with plans, taking care of yourself, taking time for play, doing things with others, feeling productive at work, and having a general feeling of regulation and sense of management. And the positive health benefits of this is a healthy heart, regulated blood pressure, very strong immune system, and that decreases your vulnerability to illness. Also, we have good digestion, great sleep, and an overall sense of well-being. And so, even though we talked about oldest to newest, our hierarchy ladder is ventral, sympathetic, and dorsal. And so a stress comes in, we're in ventral. If ventral can't connect with the stressor, the body will come in to go down the ladder and come into a sympathetic state of fight or flight. And if the body can't fight or flight the stressor, it will shut down to protect. And you can start to think about your life. You can start to think about your childhood. You can start to think about any traumas you've experienced or compounding problems and stressors throughout your life that just keep coming and coming and coming, right? How our body's systems are so old and they haven't necessarily evolved to modern day stressors. So we really have to understand and think about, how is this really impacting me on every level? So although I've broken down these states simply, it's a bit more complicated than that. So when we're in our sympathetic activated system, our body physically cannot sustain that. Our digestive function stops, our immunity and our ability to fight off infection goes down. We're flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone, adrenaline, and eventually, if we didn't get out of this state, our heart would just explode. But that's where the dorsal vagal system comes into play. And so it kind of says, nope, you're doing too much to yourself. Your body cannot sustain this stressed state. And so the dorsal vagal system is going to come in and protect you and say, I'm going to shut you down. Now, nobody likes to feel shut down, but we have to understand that our body is just here to protect us. Our body is here to determine safety or danger, right? So, like I said, modern day stressors, 400 and 500 million year old systems, they haven't evolved, right? We're constantly getting sensory information that stresses out our systems. So this is such a simple explanation of this very large, complex system. So if you're still with me, let's quickly talk about some of the other impacts sympathetic and dorsal survival states has on our system. So it's really important to understand and know that these states sensitize you to pain. And like I mentioned before, it changes how you see the world. So the world becomes threatening. Your hearing, as I mentioned, naturally will tune in to low frequency sounds. And even simple things like a neutral facial expression will start to look more angry and aggressive, even though no one is coming at you. So the world is starting to look very dangerous. And your brain starts to interpret things on a neurological level, which means our sensory stimulation, right? Touch, taste, sight, smell, and hearing that shouldn't be painful will be interpreted as painful. And that really caps our performance. So if we're stuck in this cycle of survival states, you will not have the energy to perform in multiple areas of your life. Your body isn't replenishing itself. So, for example, I mentioned the sympathetic causes our digestive functioning to decrease. So if you're running from a bear or someone's chasing after you, your body isn't focusing on digesting what you ate. It's focused on putting that energy to keep you alive. Now, I mentioned compounding. Over time, this is going to damage your digestive functioning. It's going to impair your ability to physically recover. It's going to impair your mental performance and your ability to connect with other people. So all of these things that continue to happen over and over and over again really can be the explanation as to why a lot of the things that we struggle with. So if you're in a survival mode, how do you think you're going to relate to your partner, to your coworkers, to your friends, family, etc.? When you're in these survival states, your entire being is drastically and negatively impacted. So I want to be very clear here. This is not about changing thoughts and beliefs. This is about understanding our physiology. Our physiology does not speak a language. You cannot have a rational conversation with physiology. You cannot have a rational conversation with your blood pressure and your heart rate and your breathing. The way that we access these systems is through our physical body, through sensational practices, through somatic, body-based practices. We're speaking the language of the body to interrupt the neural processes that inhibit you from being more in that ventral social engagement, right? So it really starts with becoming aware of what state you're in and how your body is responding to certain contexts. I do have downloadable handouts and such linked below in the description, and that's going to bring you over to my website, and that's going to really be helpful for you to kind of start looking into how can I understand me. So thanks for sticking with me through the time of our video today. If you found this to be clear and helpful, please give me a like. If you found it to kind of be difficult. I'm always open to feedback. I'm always open to having a conversation about this. Again, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel to be notified about more content, and I'll see you in the next one.